This conference will now be recorded.
I would like to call the Plan Commission meeting to order for Tuesday, December 5th, 2023. Roll call, please.
Eric Kadowski.
Here.
Gary Paul.
Here.
Chris Atkinson.
Here.
Jake Krieger.
Here.
And Mike Skippington.
Here.
And Campbell and Allen are excused.
Please stand for the pledge.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And please remember our men and women throughout the world in uniform. I have no changes to the agenda. I need a motion to approve.
Motion to approve. Second.
Motion and a second to approve the agenda as presented. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Number 5, action on the minutes from the Plan Commission of November 7th, 2023.
Motion to approve. Second.
Motion and a second to approve those minutes. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Number 6, comments from the public must be limited to items not on the agenda, must state your name and address. You're limited to 5 minutes. The board's role is to listen and not discuss the item. Personnel issues cannot be discussed nor individuals named, and the board is not able to take action at this meeting. Is there anybody in the audience or online that would like to have any comments about items not on the agenda? Anybody like to comment on anything not on tonight's agenda? Hearing none, moving on. Number 7, action items. 7A, consider, discuss, act on a 2-lot certified survey map for No Matter What LLC, parcel VA-178-14, southwest corner of South Oneida and Phoenix Way. Aaron.
All right, thank you. I'll share my screen to bring the materials up. All right, as referenced, proposed CSM is at the southwest corner of South Oneida Street and Phoenix Way, highlighted in yellow as you see here. The blue area is identified as 100-year floodplain on the most recent iteration of the FEMA flood panels. Robert E. Lee & Associates, on behalf of the ownership, No Matter What LLC, has requested a 2-lot CSM as depicted here, splitting the property into Lot 1 to the north and Lot 2 to the south. Both proposed lots do meet the minimum standards for the B3 Community Business Zoning District, as well as the PUD overlay ordinance number 04-1-20, which did reduce the green space requirement and the front yard building setbacks for a previous project. There are currently 2 driveway access points on South Oneida Street. Any changes or additions to driveway access on South Oneida Street would require approval by the Brown County Highway Commissioner's Office. As identified, there is floodplain on the property, and as such, it is subject to Village of Ashwaubenon floodplain zoning requirements should the property or any development occur on the property. In terms of recommended conditions of approval, including the following: addition of the following note: approved floodplain permits from the Ashwaubenon Zoning Administrator's Office are required prior to construction, fill, excavation, or grading activity within the flood fringe area. Number 2, change the village approval certification from Chris Teskey, Ashwaubenon Village Clerk, to Aaron M. Schutte, Ashwaubenon Community Development Director, and remove Mary Kardusky, Village President. Number 3, approval by the Brown County Planning Commission. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
So, Aaron, you said that these lot sizes meet, because like when I look on the South Oneida side, it's got, the one part is 136 feet and the other one is 89.
So that's actually at a tangent. So what you see there is you see C1, C2. Because that's on a curve, from a surveying standpoint, they actually just measure out the lengths of the tangents. That is well in excess of 89 feet. So 89 feet is just from point 1 to point 2 right here. There's also section C2 and C1. The distances on those are referenced in a table on the backside.
Okay, okay.
Question I have is, Aaron, that the second lot, I don't know what's being planned for these 2 different lots, but that second lot for commercial area, even though it's within the, seems very, very small. Is there thoughts as to what, I hate to see a piece of, that land is sat there vacant for a long time already, but I'd hate to see that second lot just sit there and nothing happening to it. Is there, what's the plans that they're kind of looking at, why they're making this change?
That I don't have. I don't have the answers to what their plans are. The difficult, or not difficult, but when it comes to a certified survey map or a land division, it is a by right process.
Yeah,
So provided they meet the requirements, basically it's entitled to approval.
correct. Yeah, and I totally get that. It's just, in my mind, I'm going, man, 98 feet, and granted it gets wider because of the curve, but I keep thinking about anything commercial to go on there, even to put in office this way, 98 feet, boy, you barely have room for parking, you barely have room for anything. So,
Yeah, and on the property, it is actually just under an acre of land. So from a commercial standpoint, it's a pretty good chunk of land. We worked with much smaller in the past.
This piece of property, excuse me, this piece of property's been brought up several times to us from the demolition of buildings on there, so I, like Aaron, don't know what's going to happen there, but I agree with you. It's a nice piece of property, but I think some of the buildings in that area, and I'm looking at the one on the corner of Hanson, that's built up a little bit to get it out of the floodplain. I think that's possible with that, make that work if and when something comes forward.
Correct. Any development would have to be subject to either floodplain standards for development in a floodplain, or alternatively, they could bring in fill to raise the elevation out of the floodplain through a formal process with FEMA, DNR, and the village.
All right, okay.
I would say that the last time I saw that flooded, that area flooded was prior to the pond being put in. So, yeah, I get it, map hasn't been redrawn, but it seems to me like, the flooding possibility there now is pretty slim.
I would agree.
Yeah.
All right, there's no other questions. I'll move to approve the
I'll second it.
surveying the map to two lots as presented.
And second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the certified survey map for parcel VA-178-14. Any other questions, comments, concerns?
Just to be clear, it's with staff conditions.
Oh, with staff conditions?
Staff conditions, yes.
Yep, yes. Okay, hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Okay, 7B, presentation regarding proposed revised mixed-use, climate-controlled indoor storage facility at the northeast corner of South Broadway and State Highway 172 overpass, parcel VA-1374-1. Aaron?
All right, this is a informational presentation prepared by Mr. Brian Fisher for a proposed indoor climate-controlled storage facility on some property on South Broadway and 172. So what I'll do here is I will share my screen again for the presentation and then hand it off to Brian for the, there we go, for the presentation.
All right, thank you very much.
If you wouldn't mind just making sure you speak into the microphone.
First of all, I'm glad to meet you all in person. I feel bad the last time we had this conversation, I was traveling and had to do it by Zoom, and that's certainly no way to present a project. And I also, want to say that when we were here back in September, we really didn't put the effort into it that I think it was deserved for you to understand what it is we're proposing. So subsequent to that, we have put together some information that was passed out last week, and we've had conversations, certainly with the village board, and I also want to respect your time. I'm a former Plan Commission member in the village of Germantown, Wisconsin, where I hail from, and so I will try very hard to make this quick, but I also want to be thorough, which is why I think the information that was provided, hopefully you had a chance to look it over, and we don't have to go into the community engagement presentation. Hopefully you've had a chance to look that over. One of the things that we did after we were here, we were coming for a rezone and a conditional use permit, and there were a lot of questions that came up and some concerns by the Plan Commission. And so what we did in this community engagement presentation was take a look at some of those concerns, and hopefully we've assuaded those concerns. And we decided to make a pivot. We did some research into the code, and we discovered your 2016 comprehensive plan that contemplates mixed-use development. So I do want to emphasize that what we're proposing, what we will be proposing is a mixed-use development, commercial industrial, which is an acceptable use in your 2016 comprehensive plan in a B3 zoning district. And what I'd like to do is show you a few examples through case studies of this type of use. A couple of them are from different parts of the country, but just to give you some context, and then I have a couple that I was involved with, Fisher Consult was involved with in the Milwaukee area, that I think might find interesting. How are we going to
Just scroll down.
Oh, here we go.
Yep.
So the first project is my neighborhood storage center in Magnolia Drive in Orlando, Florida. It's a mixed-use development. The lower level has a coffee shop with drive-through coffee. The sushi bar is also included. Some of the features, it's multi-story and it fits the context of the neighborhood. There's strong architectural features with this building, and I do want to emphasize that what we're proposing will have similar architectural features to what you see. So if there's something you do see and you like, certainly we'll want to hear about that. There's a prominent pedestrian edge, and I certainly think we could have that opportunity on this site here. And it's surrounded by commercial, hospitality, medical, residential, and office. And this is just a map that kind of gives you context. This is right off of I-4 Expressway in Orlando. And you can see, again, if you look at your packet, you can zoom in a little bit more, but we have a wide variety of uses in an area that mixed use made some sense. Here's, again, it's a nice street corner presentation. We're not on a hard corner here, but I think we could definitely do a nice street edge. And I think as we get further along, you'll see that this type of building contextually with what's around it would fit very well with the use. Again, it has a very office-like commercial mixed-use look. You'd be hard-pressed, except you look through the windows, to even know this is self-storage. And I think that's important in this development. That's what we're shooting for, and I don't think we communicated that very well back in September. Next is Morningstar Storage in Charlotte, North Carolina. Again, a mixed-use development. The tenant that's in there now is Umar Art. Again, some of the features, strong architectural features, prominent pedestrian edge. It's near major transportation routes, much like this site is here. It's surrounded by commercial, residential, industrial, and institutional uses. Again, we're showing we're by highways. We're near a mixture of residential, industrial, commercial. Again, I think this is an attractive building. This is the type of architecture we're talking about. I know there was some concern from the last meeting about exterior doors and surface storage. You can see that there's no opportunity for surface storage here, and we're not proposing surface storage. And while I was showing in the last example, which was just an example, some exterior drive-up doors, the key to this particular project in this location, especially in our climate, is to have a drive-through facility, a drive-through feature with the doors inside the drive-through. So there will be no exterior drive-up doors other than to come in one end and go out the other. And some of these have that, and again, we'll design the architecture such that it's not a prominent thing that you would see. We want to be very sensitive to the community and sensitive to the neighborhood. Again, here's during the daytime. This one's again on a hard corner, but you have some residential mix, and this kind of reminds me a little bit of the Pilgrim Way site in terms of some trees and a nice location there. Now I'm going to move to some projects in the Milwaukee area. These are ones that I was directly involved with, both entitling them with the cities in which they were located, designing the facilities, and seeing them through to construction. The first is Life Storage in Milwaukee. Very interesting project. It has tenants above it, pilot Project Brewing. It used to be Milwaukee Brewing Company, but they sold out. And Badger Mutual Insurance, corporate headquarters is located in the same building. This site features, it's 2 blocks away from the Pfizer Forum in the Deer District. But that was kind of a nice thing to point out, given our proximity to Lambeau Field and Titletown. It's near major transportation routes. It's surrounded by commercial, residential, industrial, and institutional uses. So the red square is the site. This was the distribution facility for Pabst Brewing. So everything to the left or the west of this was all the old Pabst brewery complex. But you have MATC Health nearby. You have Trinity, a very famous Trinity Evangelical Lutheran Church. Across the street, the Pfizer Forum in the Deer District immediately to the east. It was originally developed as an extra space storage and extra space sold to Life Storage. So the signage has changed, but this building was all brick, and there was some architectural, all the glass was added to it over time, and the storage is in the lower level of this, and the mixed use is on the top. And again, this is between 8th and 9th, and Juneau and Highland. I'm not expecting you to understand that because you're not from Milwaukee, but on the 9th Street side, which is to the left of this, that's at grade to the 2nd floor. We're on the lower level, which is at grade to the east. And this is an example. This is the same building. This is the drive-through that we would be doing on this project as well. So you'd have a door at the end and a door on either end, and you would drive in, and you have accessibility to interior units, which there's nothing like it in the Green Bay area whatsoever. There's very few climate control, all climate control. There's hardly any all climate control facilities, and there are none with drive-through. And I think this makes this site unique because it'll be a destination for people that don't want to have to be outside in the wintertime bringing their stuff in and out. These are really high security facilities as well. And if you had looked through the community outreach, community engagement presentation, just know that there are security cameras everywhere. We're piping music into the inside of this facility, and the focus is on the primary user, which, depending on what research model you look at, 75% of the people that actually store in these facilities are women. We'll look at Life Storage in Franklin. It is attached to a Hobby Lobby. It's located on a major retail corridor in Franklin, Wisconsin, which is South 27th Street. This site was a PIP, not a PUD overlay like we have here. And we had a very interesting conversation where the mayor wasn't interested in the idea of adding self-storage use here, but once we spent some time like we are here and explained what we were doing, we were unanimously approved for that project. And this is an aerial. So at North-South Road, it's South 27th Street. We're next to a Walmart. There's a Sam's Club. There's a you name it, Menards across the street. There's plenty of residential on either side of it, east and west. So again, a mixed-use development in a diverse area.
What's that main street running in front of it?
In front of it is South 27th Street. It's Highway 441.
Okay.
It's the old Highway 41, actually. And here's some examples. This one had a drive-in, and we made it very spacious. So you could come in, park, you can see the parking stalls, and then back out the same way. If I can avoid people backing up, I do, because they will crash into the doors. It's guaranteed that will happen. And here's an example. Here we add a little feature to gain attention. And again, this is showing the level of architecture that we'd be shooting for in this particular project. Last example is another mixed-use development project for Life Storage in Milwaukee. It is attached to a Stone Creek Coffee, and it's actually where Stone Creek Coffee does all its roasting as well. So it has a little bit of manufacturing going on as well as retail. It's across the street from the Milwaukee Amtrak station, or the Milwaukee's Intermodal station. The Milwaukee Post Office is actually right down the street, which I didn't mention that. It's right next to 794, and it's blocks away from the Harley-Davidson Museum, and it's blocks away from the Summerfest grounds. So again, You can see a little red box, kind of center mass in this picture. You can see the whole, tangled mess of the Marquette interchange off to the left or the west. The intermodal station is directly across the street. And if you go to the east, you're going to hit Summerfest grounds, and if you look straight down to the south, you see the Harley-Davidson Museum. And this was an adaptive reuse. This was an old Boston store warehouse back in the day. And we painted our building, and then Stone Creek Coffee went and painted theirs to match. You can see the Milwaukee Intermodal Station at the end of the scene here. It's just the backside. So 480 Pilgrim Way, this proposed mixed-use commercial industrial development in a PUD district overlay. Tenants are to be determined, again, in the community engagement. We looked at, there are many uses that are allowed uses in the B3 that could certainly work here. There are also, elements in the B3 that, for commercial, that would also be allowed in the B3 that maybe aren't as desirable as what I think would fit well with this. But that'll be up to us to work. The site itself is sat empty for over 20 years. Again, here's the site location. I know you're all familiar with it. We've got the Mansu Flats, Aloft Hotel, and the office building. So here we're coming in on the cul-de-sac. And I just wanted to point out, you've got some really nice multi-story buildings on either side of this. You have the multi-story Mansu Flats. We have Northland packing across the street, which is a really tough, site to be located across. And I can't say that's why this site hasn't developed, but, a high-end retail or high-end use to go across the street from that, that's a tough sell, and maybe part of why this hasn't been developed over time, but self-storage will work here because it's a destination, and we think the right B3 commercial use would make for a good destination location as well. Maybe a small convenience store. Lots of opportunities there for us to explore. And again, just showing the context, I think, again, a multi-story, high architecture building that can look just like these buildings or keep in the same context of these buildings is what we are proposing. And I'll leave it at that for the presentation part. I know there were some concerns last time about spot zoning. I know there were some concerns about would this be, torn down in 10 years? This will be a $12 to $15 million project when it's done. And we wouldn't want to locate it here if it wasn't going to survive and last. So I feel that you're going to get a really nice kind of finishing off of this particular gateway into the Ashwaubenon, at least from the 172 perspective. I think there's a lot of things we can do, and I would certainly open up any suggestions. PUD will allow us to pull this really close to the sidewalk. We'll get rid of that berm. We'll make it more pedestrian friendly. I drove down the road that goes along 172 back to the Mansu Flats, and there might be an opportunity for pedestrian connection there. We're open to those suggestions, and I think with that, I'll leave it open to any questions.
So my question would be, you're not asking us to rezone this, you are asking for a PUD overlay, correct?
That's correct. So should he come forward with a request in the future, it would be for a PUD overlay on the B3 Community Business Zoning District.
Okay.
Well, this wasn't my idea of what could happen on that lot. You've got professional buildings all the way around it. You do talk about Northland Cold Storage, which their presentation to the street is not that bad, although there is semis in and out of there. I had visions of another executive building going up there to fit in with what you got. We've got a couple of hotels down there that are surviving quite well. I guess my question to you, or my suggestion, would be to have a public hearing with all the businesses, representatives in that area, to see what their thought is on something like that. Let's have some public input on it to see what their thoughts are in having that. A couple of those warehouses you showed me there, I've seen some of them. I've been in enough areas to know that, yeah, you can make them look nice. My biggest drawback on it is large signage on it. That just takes away from the aesthetics of the building. And that, to me, downgrades the rest of the property there, because here you're having controlled temperature warehousing, and then you got Merrill Lynch and da-da-da-da up in the other area though. So I would really be against large signage on a building of that type. That's my thought on it at the moment, but I would really push for public hearing on it to make sure people in the area understand what you're looking at.
Well, certainly in the PUD process, we can work with the village on signage and a lot of those areas that might be of concern to other members of the Plan Commission.
Yeah, my comment would be that I do like the idea that it's a mixed-use facility, because I would say the last time we visited it, I didn't pick up on that. It seemed like it was just going to be a storage facility, and I, like Gary, kind of have different visions for that area down there than just a storage facility. But now that you're talking mixed use, you know, that could definitely be a consideration. But I really like Gary's idea about getting a public hearing, and let's find out what people in that area, you know, do they have any concerns? Do they think it would fit well? What's their thoughts? So that'd be my feedback.
So just so I'm clear, you're talking about more of a neighborhood meeting I mean, the PUD would have a formal public hearing with that.
Correct.
But you're talking about getting a neighborhood meeting together before the actual process to gather their input?
Correct.
I was thinking similar to what we did on the property on Oneida Street. We had public input from the neighbors there. That's my thought on where we should go with this.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
I like the concept. I mean, I'm not against it, but I got to be convinced that it'll fit in that area.
it's been, you know what, we just talked about this today, 22 years ago, that whole development down there started. And it's finally, after 22 years, you know, we had 9/11, which really did a number on everybody. And it's finally starting to come together and looking nice, so we definitely want to be aware of what goes down there. So I agree, a neighborhood, even though it's a business area, but a neighborhood meeting would probably be very good to get input from everybody.
I can certainly facilitate that with Brian, and you know, if he's amenable to it, I'd coordinate that out of my office then.
Okay.
Is there a full-time employee at this place?
Pardon me?
Full-time employee
Yes,
at this
yeah,
place?
yes, it's manned full-time,
Full-time.
24-hour access as well remotely when there's not there. So it's a highly secure facility, which is going to be great for whatever commercial use goes there. There'll be cameras everywhere.
Would you build a building without a sign on it? I don't like the idea of storage building, big storage building as you walk. This young lady.
Well, I mean,
Menards comes in and says, we want to put a storage building down there. I don't know who the hell it was, but Menards leaves, and somebody wanted to throw a storage building in there. It took a while, but that's a hell of a building down there where Menards used to be. And this is, it's a little bit step up, but it's still a storage building, and I still see this, every one of these has, well, most of them has, it's a storage building, and there's a big sign on the side. And it just gives me a negative connotation to seeing, you know, coming into Ashwaubenon and bang, storage building.
well, yeah, and we can certainly work with you on that. We don't, at this point, know what management company would be managing this, and they all try to be as tasteful as they can. What I've worked with other clients that want the word self-storage as large as humanly possible. You know, a lot of the business gets driven by online, you know, by the online part of what the management company does. They're doing a lot of that marketing basically online. So the need for massive signs wasn't what it was, say, 5-10 years ago, just because how technology has progressed. I mean, there have to be some type of a sign, but we would certainly work within the parameters of the village and try and definitely make it tasteful, and they have to be approved.
I don't know who's going to use it, but it's not the easiest place to get to. When you're looking at, St. Paul and Milwaukee, you're right there. But to get to this place, if you're on 172, you got to get off at Nida, come all the way around.
I think in my experience, it's really easy to get to. That's a really easy site to get to. And I mean, I've done almost 2 million square feet of storage. That's why this is a nice site. It's accessible, and it is easy to get to.
If you have a business down there, it's going to have to be something that the local people in that area are going to support. Because again, it's like, I'm not going to come from downtown Ashwaubenon to get over there to a coffee store.
Well, I think that's why it's been a challenging site for so long.
It's a specialty type of place that's,
Destination, I mean, some type of a destination, you said fits within, again, it fits within your zoning code for B3.
so this is just informational.
Correct.
Yeah, I like
Just
Paul,
information.
yeah, Gary's idea of bringing it up to the people in the area. So,
I'll work with Brian on that, and we'll make sure that you're informed of when that is scheduled.
Okay,
Right, thank you very much.
thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, number 8, items for next agenda. Do we have a next agenda, Aaron?
I believe we will, yes.
Okay. I need a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn? Second.
Motion and a second to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.